Former First Lady, Senator and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was compelled to testify last week before a House committee looking into the Epstein affair, which she was none too pleased about, given that she claims not to know the guy from a bar of soap.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance. But whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond.
An acquaintance. Reporters wanted to know, how was it then that a year after Epstein had been released from jail the first time, Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's 2010 wedding?
She came as the plus one, the guest of someone who was invited.
Did plus ones really just turn up without being registered or checked for a wedding involving a who's who of American politics and finance? 2 years after Epstein's guilty plea to watered-down sex trafficking charges? Maybe. Turns out Maxwell was at the Clinton wedding with her new boyfriend at the time, Ted Waite, a tax-billionaire, a friend of the Clintons and a prolific Clinton Foundation donor. So maybe it's just a case of money talking. But that was just the curtain raiser. The main event came the next day when, for the first time in history, a former American president testified before a congressional committee under subpoena. Both Clintons had initially resisted giving a deposition to this House Oversight Committee, calling it invalid, unenforceable and politically motivated, but ultimately they agreed to appear in the face of potential contempt charges. This committee wanted to know a lot more about President Clinton's association with the convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. In Clinton's telling of that, well, there wasn't much to it.
First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos they show of me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter far more than any interpretation of 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. And I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong.
If you say so, Baba. And this is the photo from Epstein's own files. President Clinton there in a hot tub with a woman whose face has been blacked out. Another undated image, but possibly taken at the same time, shows Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell paddling about in the pool with Bill Clinton and an unidentified woman. During his sworn testimony, President Clinton reportedly denied knowing who that woman in the hot tub with him was, not Ghislaine but the other one, and told lawmakers under oath that he did not have sexual relations with her. Now, where have we heard that before?
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yeah, you did. So, Bill Clinton has a big credibility problem, even if 28 years later, he's now actually telling the truth. President Clinton was reportedly asked about his name appearing in the flight logs of Epstein's plane and about Epstein's name appearing in Clinton's White House visitor logs. Clinton also reportedly told the committee that now President Trump told him in the early 2000s at a golf tournament that he had a falling out with Epstein over a land deal. President Trump has claimed that he ended his long friendship with Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein stole some young female employees from his Mar-a-Lago club. So that possible rewriting of history might provide an opening for Democrats on this committee who want President Trump to be deposed.
We are now asking and demanding that President Trump officially come in and testify in front of the Oversight Committee.
And will Republican Committee Chairman James Comer now try to depose President Trump? Seems unlikely.
From all the evidence I've seen, he's been exonerated for a long time.
President Trump himself had a rather interesting reaction to Bill and Hillary Clinton being hauled before this committee. Chaz, was this sympathy or self-interest?
I like him, and I don't like seeing him deposed.
I reckon he can see those 2027 subpoenas coming his way, John.
He likes the Clintons? Make him say that under oath.
Talking about potential Trump concerns, we learned a bit more this week about those allegations against Trump in the Epstein files. Remember last week we told you about the Department of Justice withholding summaries of 3 FBI interviews with a woman who alleged Trump assaulted her. The DOJ only released a 4th interview with that woman where her allegations were solely about Jeffrey Epstein. Some interesting choices there. Well, the DOJ's explained these omissions by saying any document withheld is either a duplicate, privileged, or part of an ongoing federal investigation. Even though the interviews mentioning Trump were clearly none of those three. So the DOJ put out another statement and suggested the documents were withheld because of a protective order in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Unfortunately, the DOJ in court had already acknowledged that those documents were not subject to a protective order, so make of all that what you will. The cover-up was a waste of time anyway. The Guardian's already got their hands on these interviews. Apparently, the woman said she was sexually abused by Epstein from the age of 13 in 1983 while she was living in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Now, for what it's worth, Epstein's brother Mark told The Guardian he had no knowledge of his brother spending summers on Hilton Head in the early 80s, and he said he would have known if Jeff had gone there. Also, there is no evidence that Trump and Epstein knew each other back in 1983. Trump told New York Magazine in 2002 that he met Epstein 15 years before then, which would work out to be 1987 if Trump could do maths. Once again, you make of that what you will. Either way, the woman said Epstein introduced her to Trump and some other guys back then in the early 80s, and she said when they were alone, Trump said something like, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be," before attempting to sexually assault her. And that was when she said she bit him. We should also note that someone matching the woman's details has faced several fraud and theft charges before, as well as a felony charge for exploitation of an elderly person. And while last week we did tell you she successfully settled a lawsuit with the Epstein estate, The Guardian says no. She actually dropped her claims from the lawsuit, and they don't know if she actually did receive a financial settlement. Now, I'm not trying to push you either way on that allegation, but that is where it's at the moment. By contrast, I am trying to push you to believe that Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnik is full of crap. Recall, this is what Lutnik said last year about Jeffrey Epstein.
And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
And this is what Lutnik said after the Epstein files revealed that he was lying on that podcast, that he'd actually taken his whole family, including his 4 kids, on the trip to Epstein Island in 2012.
Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him, and then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again.
At the time, it was noted that only 5 days after Lutnik visited Epstein Island with his family, both Epstein and Lutnik invested in the same digital ad company called Adfin. But one of Lutnik's buddies said that Lutnik was only a minority investor in Adfin and he didn't have any knowledge of who the other investors were at the time of doing the deal. Right, so no knowledge of Epstein's involvement at all, yeah? Okay. Explain to me then this email thread 6 years later in 2018 from HWL, or Howard William Lutnik, marked as being sent from Lutnik's personal company, mind you, which began with Epstein writing, "On another note, what do you think the prospects for Adfin are?" Does that sound like they hadn't spoken for 6 years? And Lutnik responded, "Producing revenue finally. This is their year. Next 12 months, they need to become economically self-sufficient." Epstein says, "Thanks. How long until Sherry's ready? I can buy my guest house." And Lutnik says, "Probably 4 years. We'd need to actually do something for it to ever finish. Haven't even picked an architect designer yet. Too much construction. Just finished this house." Now, I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds very much like they knew each other quite well, doesn't it? And also, they knew about their business relationship. And if that's not evidence enough, how about in 2017 when fund manager John Paulson emailed Epstein to say, "As you may know, it's our privilege to be honouring our good friend Howard W. Lutnik, Chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. I want to make sure that as a close friend of the Lutniks, you're aware of the event and have the opportunity to support them." And then he gave some donation options, to which Epstein responded, $50K, as in a $50,000 donation to support a supposed stranger. And finally, there's this photo. which popped up in the Epstein files briefly and sure looks like Howard Lutnik on Epstein Island with Epstein. When was it taken? We don't know. But we do know that at some point DOJ deleted it. And when CBS asked them about the photo being deleted, DOJ then immediately restored it. How about that? DOJ said the photo was part of a batch of files that were flagged for nudity, even though it had no nudity, and that it was uploaded again with necessary redactions, even though it had no redactions. Maybe, John, that committee should forget just for a second about Hillary Clinton and have a chat with Howard Lutnik, as well as some of these DOJ characters who are covering for the administration.
Good tip, Chaz.